Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Charmley. This is another country church. This is the beautiful and very, very Protestant church of St. John the Baptist, Hilton with Murton. I think it's Hilton with Murton. It's one with the other. This church is built in 1856, but it feels like at least 50 years previously. It's a Protestant building. It's a building that is built for Reformed worship. The people gathered around the Word of God. You can see behind me the three-decker pulpit. The most prominent thing here, other than these lamps, and these of course are lamps for the quite proper purpose of giving light so that people can see to read their prayer books and to read their hymn books. It has been altered a little bit. Some changes have been made. It's been made a little bit more in keeping, but they're decorative changes. They're not structural changes. The biggest change is there's an organ now. There wouldn't have been an organ originally. There might have been a harmonium or a little band, but now there's an organ. This is the Protestant face of the Church of England. It was built as a chapel, not a church. An Anglican chapel, mind you, a chapel of ease for Appleby and Westmoreland. Big parish, and this is an outlying rural district. And so, in the 1850s, there's this decision: we need to have Anglican worship here. We need to have, rather than expecting the locals to trek into Appleby, we'll build them a church, a chapel of their own, and this is it. And it's a wonderful building. It's a good example of how an Anglican church building would have looked before the Oxford movement, before this idea, the Church of England is Catholic. Now, by Catholic you mean part of the universal church, that's one thing, but of course what they meant was being more like the medieval church. And no, this is a Reformed building for Reformed worship. So let's have a look around, and I'll point out particularly the features that say this is a Reformed building. So as usual, we start at the west end, and we can see immediately the font is not at the west end. The font is there, in the middle. It looks like it probably was always there, and it's an interesting place to put it, because it means that at baptism, and of course infant baptism, Church of England, we're looking at baptisms, everyone can gather around the font in the middle of the church. You'll notice also there's no chancel. There is no division between here's a special place for the clergy and here's a place for the ordinary folk. It's all a building really for God's people, God's folk. We'll move up here onto the platform where the organ is, and you can see again the three-decker pulpit. This is the special glory of this building. You'll also notice there is no stained glass at all. Not even in the east window. It's all plain glass to let in God's own sunlight. It's a building that's designed for convenience in that sense, but it is designed for worship, and the dominating factor here, the eye is always drawn to that pulpit. As I say, it's a three-decker. It's a three-decker where you have at the bottom, there's the clerk's desk, where the parish clerk leads the congregation in their part of the worship, in their singing, and especially in the responses in the Book of Common Prayer. And they do seem to use the BCP here, because there's a whole load of them in the bookcase there by the door. You can see all these prayer books, and that's a good idea of a little church like this, that you say, well, we're going to have prayer book services, because that's what this is built for. And in these days of declining congregation in the Church of England, a little church like this has to say, well, okay, why do we want people to come here and to come to experience worship according to the Book of Common Prayer is a good idea. And you see there again, you've got your three-decker, you've got your clerk's desk in the middle, then you've got at the bottom, then in the middle you've got the reading desk where the vicar reads his part of the service, and then at the top there's the pulpit where preaching takes place, and someone's put a crucifix at the back. There wouldn't have been one originally. There's very few memorials here. You've got one 150th anniversary 2006 improvements made included the internal redecoration, installation of a sound improvement system, and relaying of the path in the churchyard. You've got the roll of honour, Yes, he's Murton with Hilton. Roll of Honour for the First World War. The east window was installed to mark the centenary of the church in 1856. And it's just a repair leaded window. You've got a memorial here to Arnold Gray Burrell, constable of the South African Mounted Constabulary Canadian Contingent, son of the Reverend Samuel Blake Burrell, vicar of this parish, who died at De Aar in Cape Colony, 15th of May 1901, aged 21 years. So, I think that is the sum of the memorials on the wall. Pulpit Fall, you've got one with sheep. This is very much a sheep farming area, just that kind of parish. You've got these, and each one seems to have a slightly different globe, which is good. Bit of variety. You can see these are still used. They're probably used at Christmas time to have when you're having your carol service here. And we've got some candles there again. They'll be for carol services and such like. There is a table behind there, but of course it's altar-wise. They've got these communion rails. They're original. And of course, the reason this railed-off area is to do with how Anglicans do communion, that you kneel at the rails to take communion. There is a list of former incumbents here, and indeed include the present incumbent. The chapel of St. John the Baptist, consecrated to 17th of June 1856, security in charge, John Richardson, M.A., headmaster at Appleby Grammar School. And it's quite common, actually, to have a clergyman to be headmaster of the grammar school and to also have charge of a church or a chapel like this. You can see there's the vestry door beside the pulpit, pointed headed door. The style here is an adapted early English Gothic, lancet windows, and the triple lancet, very good triple lancet behind the table. And then 1863, Robert Johnson Gorman becomes the first vicar. 1866, succeeded by Isaac Sire. The last vicar here who's in sole charge is Charles Herbert Wallace, who's between 1913 and 1939. And then from 1939 it's held in plurality with St Michael's Appleby, and in 1953 further combined with St Lawrence Appleby. St Lawrence has now been closed. Appleby is not that enormous, not that big, and quite frankly, Appleby St Michael is huge. And then 2009 it becomes the Heart of Eden benefice. So the changes over the years, again back to that pulpit, because this pulpit dominates the building. It's supposed to. You're coming here primarily, in fact, I suspect, for the preaching, and that's great. This Reformed worship, Anglican church, but very much a Reformed church, a Protestant church. Now, what was the doctrine here when it was built? I don't know. Was it Calvinistic, or was it a sort of woolly Arminianism? I suspect Calvinistic. I mean, it does have that sort of Calvinist feel to it as a building. A lovely building, very, very impressive. And we've got here, you can see, here's the clerk's desk. I suspect this is where most of the services are done from now, the clerk's desk. Although I'll just have a peep inside even the reading desk appears to be used for storage, and so is the pulpit, which is a shame but I can quite see if you're having the service here and you don't want people peering up at the pulpit, although the reading desk has very, very good visibility, as it should. And again, the stairs that go up with a nice handrail and that nice little font in the middle, which has a very shallow bowl. I mean, it looks like it's got a deep bowl, but actually you look at it, you get there and you've got this little sort of saucery dish at the top. Very nice. So we'll go outside now. There's a little porch, but it's just a little porch. Nothing interesting really in there. Church warden's staves, the vicar's warden and the people's warden, and then either side you've got the original church warden's wands, which are just identical to each other. So very lovely, very Protestant, in spite of that picture of St. Francis. The This says of Assisi, again, later addition wouldn't have been welcome in the building as originally built. And so we're outside here. There may be some wind noise on the video, nothing I can do about it. There's wind. We're up in the moors. Of course there's wind up here. You can see behind me again the very simple building, simple lancet window, little porch there. There's this little belfry, we'll see that in a minute. And again, it's a building that's for the ordinary people. It's not a building that's designed to show off some landowner's wealth, nor is it a building that's designed to express a sacramental theology. It's designed rather to express this is where the Church of God, the Church of Christ meets. So we'll have a look around the outside and make some further comments on it. So you are here, Murton, and there's the little belfry, bellcot at the top there. And yes, that is exactly what it looks like. That is the outside toilet. Very important. You may hear in the background occasionally some bangs. There's a military firing range up in the hills above Murton. It's all quite safe, but you can get some interesting noises around here sometimes. There you can see the old vicarage, now a private house, and there is the cemetery. No churchyard around the church, so it's a bit difficult a bit awkward to get around. But it's all very much this sandstone box with pointy windows and a wonderful coating of lichen. There goes the artillery. Last time I was here was in the summer, well, not in the summer, rather it was about the same time last year, but better weather, and they were really going at it with their machine guns up there. And again you can see here these little pointy windows, nice red sand, so although mostly it's hidden now. And there's the gate with its little lantern above. Very important because the lantern is in when they got evening services here, and it's dark. But it's a lovely building, and I say very much one appreciates it. Now, be careful because I've got to cross the road here. There is somebody coming, so there's a car coming. But that is the church. I mean, look at that. That is the perfect example. Again, no external chancel. It's obviously a church. Now just watch out for this Land Rover. Obviously a church. Mostly Land Rover around here. It's obviously a church, but it's a Protestant church. So there we are. That is Murton. I won't go around the other side just because conscious I'm in the middle of a road at the moment. So that is Murton Church. I'm not sure they have weekly services here, but it certainly is all set up so that they could if they wanted to. And so there we are, and it's just a beautiful example of, and possibly one of the last Anglican churches that's built like this, that's built to say this is a Protestant church of Protestant worship. And there we are, there's the front door. So there we are, Murton with Hilton, St John the Baptist. Beautiful building, and perhaps one of the last statements of Anglicanism as a Protestant Reformed faith. And this is Protestant Anglicanism in stone and wood. Well, thanks for watching. May God bless you and keep you until next time.